Hello everyone, this is James Francis. Welcome to the live stream. That is my cat Fredo. He's enjoying the sun, something amazing over there. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, he's loving it so much. Let me know you can hear me okay. Go ahead and comment below. Just say hi James, whatever you want to say. Let me know where you are in the world. We are live across a few platforms here, so I'll be viewing the comments live. In this session, first and foremost, let me know if this sounds familiar. You wake up in the morning tired because of the day before. You do the usual stuff, you do your usual routine, and then by the end of the day, you're so exhausted that you never really have the time or energy or motivation to work on your online business. Let me know in the comments if that is you. Say yes, because a lot of people have this problem. So I wanted to share this with you live on air on this live stream. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that I'm covering something that everybody wants. So go ahead and say yes in the comments if this is you, because it's a big problem. When I first started my business, I'm gonna walk myself into my office here actually, just, let's get to the office. So this is my office here in my house in San Diego. So let's go. Now, those of you who are new to the stream, welcome to the community, welcome to our group. This is my office where I run the 30 to 50K plus per month online business from. It's literally that. It's a laptop on a desk and my guitar in the corner. And that's it, and beautiful views of San Diego there as well, with the blue skies as well. So let me know in the comments. I'm gonna go ahead and have a look. I'm trying a different format today. I'm having it landscape instead of portrait, and I can't seem to see the comments for some reason. Anyway, I'm gonna be sharing 3 secrets to free up time in your life and your schedule to work on your online business without burning yourself out, without feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and without waking up earlier. I know a lot of experts, let me go ahead and sit down here. I know a lot of experts will say like, oh, you just need to wake up earlier. James, you're lazy. You wake up at 10. You can't expect to get stuff done if you wake up at 10. That's not true. I wake up roughly 9 a.m., 10 a.m. or so, and I get more stuff done compared to people who work up at like 5 or 6 a.m. when working full time on their businesses. Now, of course, that wasn't always the case. When I started my online business, I was, let's put it this way, I was stressed out to the max. I was waking up at like 7 a.m. I would have like 15 minutes for breakfast. I'd get ready and so on. Then I'd go to college. Then I would, let's think. So then I'd go to college and that would take me about an hour to get there. I'd have probably about 30 minutes for a lunch break by the time I got my food and everything else and got to a place I wanted to eat. And then I'd finish, get home for about 4 o'clock. I'd have like an hour to myself just to get changed, to get showered and stuff. Sometimes it was a rough day, right? I'd had PE or something, physical education in school, and I needed a shower, right? So sometimes you have things to do. And then after that, about an hour later from getting home, I would then, I'm laughing because it was just so annoying at the time, Sure, you've been there. You might be there now. Let me know in the comments if this is resonating with you. It's just boom, 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 one thing after the next throughout your whole day. And then before you know it, you've got 0 time left for anything, right? But yeah, I'd go to my part-time job working in the grocery store in Morrison's in the UK. And essentially that would mean that I'd finish work about 9:30 and then get home for about 10. I'd eat my evening meal. I'd finish that for about, after finished cooking and everything else, probably like 10:30. And keeping in mind I had to wake up at like 7 o'clock or so the next morning, I had to go to bed at a reasonable time to get my 8 hours of sleep. And for those of you who know me personally as well, I love to get 8 hours of sleep. I feel terrible if I don't. And it's a massive difference in my life. Like my cognitive function is so much better. I come up with my best ideas when I've had 8 hours of sleep, right? And that's just something which is like a rule in my life. I always want to be having that 8 hours of sleep. So then you end up with this situation where, where have you got the time to work on your business? And you've got all of these amazing ideas and possibly a proven plan to follow, but you don't actually have time to execute anything, to implement anything, to get results. And then 6 months go by and you think, I'll wait until I've got time. And then a year goes by and then you say, it's been a year now, I need to get something done, but you can't do anything about it because your day is so rammed. Your schedule is so full. All right, does that sound like you? Let me know in the comments and I'll try and see if I can flip this here to sideways temporarily. No worries. Okay, no worries at all. For some reason, it's not showing me the comments, but I assume you guys are typing in the comments and stuff, right? And I'll get to those at the end if I can. So, I have 3 things that I do when I started out up to the present day that allows me to free up time in my schedule to work on my business, to do my best work, and not rushed work either. I mean, prime time, 100% focus, implementation and learning as well, right? So it goes without saying, there are things you can do throughout the day. You can have headphones in, listening to programs and courses and stuff like that to enhance your education, to become more knowledgeable in your topic area, your niche, but also business stuff as well. Like you can have your headphones on when you're at the gym listening to courses or programs, for example. So there's things you can do alongside other activities, and that helps with learning. But there are 3 other things which I recommend to do, which will make you have like structured implementation time, which is where the results happen. Because don't forget, you're not going to see the results that you want unless you implement the things that you're learning, right? You should never just be in that constant learning phase. Otherwise, you're never gonna get any results. And I did that for about 6 years, not 6 years, like 6 months or so before it got to that point where I realized, oh wow, I need to get this stuff implemented to see results. And that overwhelmed me as well. At the same time, I was thinking, well, that's a lot to do, right? So what are these 3 things which will free up this time in your schedule? Now, the first one is something that I call, so it's schedule revitalization, or schedule liberation. I like to call it schedule liberation because it liberates you from having this back-to-back schedule all day long, and it will free up your time. Now, what do I mean by schedule liberation? Well, what I mean is, throughout the day, we all do things which aren't really required, and you might have to sacrifice to be able to find time for your online business. Now, I'm not saying you need to sacrifice the things you love, because you should always have those things in your life. Otherwise, your life just becomes boring and meaningless, right? It becomes like you become a workhorse and you're just constantly on this hamster wheel, and you wake up thinking, what's the point? So I don't recommend removing the activities which you enjoy, which make you really happy, because then you're just going to be unhappy. And what's the point, right? You have this amazing business, but you're unhappy. So what's the point? A much better approach here is to block out your entire day, write down, journal down your entire day from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night in 15-minute blocks, okay? Now, this is very eye-opening because throughout the whole day, us humans, we all have a tendency to do things which, let's say something could be done in 10 minutes, but that whole thing takes 30, And there's things you can do to free up more time in your schedule. Now, to give you an example here, right? Let's say you follow this exercise. Please do. It will massively change your life, as it did with mine as well. I'm a true believer that if I didn't do this exercise with my own business and my own life, I would not be where I am today, making between 30 and 50K a month with this online business stuff, right? So first and foremost, you probably think, well, okay, great. So I've this time, for example, I've got to do a food shop. I've got to do the grocery shop, right? And that involves how many minutes going to the store. It could be like 15, 20 minutes to go to Walmart, for example. From my house, it's about that, right? And then you've got to come back. So that's 40 minutes just in travel. And then you've got to go around the actual store itself, which usually takes around 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how busy it is and how much stuff you've got to get and so on and so on. So all in all, you're looking at about an hour and a half, maybe sometimes 2 hours just to do a food shop, depending on the commute, depending on the traffic and everything else, right? So that 2 hours can be saved and liberated from your schedule by using something like Instacart, right? Or online delivery, like online food shopping delivery. And yes, you might get a few substitutes you're not happy with. And, overall, it's sometimes more preferable to actually go to the store because you might find stuff you prefer. But what is that time that's been freed up worth to you? What could you do in that extra hour and a half, which you couldn't have done before? See where I'm going with this? Now, that's just one activity you can do. Now, there are all the other things as well, like you can get a bunch of people to help you out with all this stuff. There's services like TaskRabbit, where they can, do handiwork for you around the house, or you could get a cleaner or something like that to free up your time. And of course, we may not have the budget to do those things, but these are just examples. You need to look at your individual schedule, your personal schedule from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night, and assess, are any of these activities optional? Truly, can somebody else do these for me? If it's childcare, for example, and you've got to take them to a certain nursery or childcare place, right? Is there one closer to you that would shave 10, 15 minutes off your journey, right? And then you look at your day in 15-minute chunks from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night. What are you doing in those 15-minute chunks? And you might find there's a bunch of stuff you can actually liberate from your schedule. So to give you another example here that probably everyone is guilty of, myself included, is watching TV. During my lunch break, nowadays it's okay because I'm working throughout the rest of the day. But during my lunch break when I was at college, I started doing a bit of work during my lunch break. And to me, I felt like, 15 minutes isn't going to be enough. I can't really do much at all. But you'll be surprised at how much you can get done in a 15-minute chunk when you focus fully and wholeheartedly. You put your whole ass in there, right? It's like you don't half-ass the thing, you whole-ass it, right? So you basically try your very best to get as much as you possibly can get done in the space of that 15-minute lunch break. And most people have more than a 15-minute lunch break. Most people have 30 minutes or more, 30 minutes plus. So you can get a lot done. Even if you say, 10 minutes for eating, what do you do in the remaining 20 minutes? You might chat with co-workers or something, or whatever it is that you do. What can you do instead? You could work on your online business. Take your laptop with you and be working on that, for example. And you'll be surprised, 20 minutes a day does not sound like a lot. But over the course of a week, that's 5 days, right? So that's an hour, an extra hour. So 20, 40, 60. Well, an hour and 40 minutes, nearly close to 2 hours, in fact, over the course of a week. And over the course of a month, that's like getting close to 7 or 8 hours, right? Some really quick math there. So an extra 8 hours a month you've freed up just by doing that thing during your lunch break. And that's just one of many examples. And what I did when I first started out was I realized I was watching a lot of TV, and I enjoyed that, but I realized I could get the same amount of enjoyment out of watching 15 minutes compared to watching an hour. Right? So it's not like the more you watch TV, the more you enjoy it. Typically, it's just a respite. It's like you've had a long day at work, you're a bit exhausted, you sit in front of the TV, and then it's like, well, you kind of relax a little bit, and then after a certain point, you feel relaxed, and the rest is just kind of optional time that is passing away, that is just ticking away through your schedule day in, day out. And if you add up all of that time, which could be spent on your business, you can actually get a lot out of the week, which you couldn't have done before. And that leads me on to my next point, okay? So let me know in the comments if this is making sense to you so far. If this is resonating, just put yes, that would be great. I always like to make sure I'm hitting home here, right? So another thing which I want to make clear here is that you don't need to block off like an hour or 2 hours in your schedule per day, per week, or whatever to work on your online business, okay? Now, this is super, super important because a lot of people think that, oh, I can't, and I thought this too, by the way. I was exactly the same, and I'm saying all this stuff from experience of what helped me, so hopefully it will help you guys as well. So I was thinking, well, I can't do that because it's going to take me more than 15 minutes, it's going to take me more than an hour, so I'm just going to wait until I have time. But let me ask you this, the same question I asked myself: when are you going to have time? Realistically, when are you going to have time? You think, well, next week I'm going to have more time, it won't be as busy. But guess what? Life throws us a curveball and something else happens with a family, or you get sick, or especially in today's world as well, with the way the whole world's going lately, it's very easy for those things to happen, right? So you got to keep in mind that even though you think you may have time in a certain week or month or year, even I'm just going to put this off until next year, right? If it's not really that important to you, that time comes around and suddenly you don't have any more time left. And then you just keep pushing it back. And you've got to ask yourself, how important is this to me? How important is it to me? Do I want to continue struggling through life with this day job I possibly dislike, with this situation in my life which I'm trying to get away from, how long am I willing to put up with that stuff, right? And over time, you get more and more agitated as well, which turns you into a more stressed out person and a more overwhelmed person the longer this goes on for. So it's really like a catch-22 situation at that point, because you feel it's not actually reality, what I learned at least, that you feel like you have to wait for the perfect time, but the perfect time never exists because there's always something new happening in your life. So it's this perpetual cycle of procrastination. And we feel validated when that happens because it's like, oh, okay, so I was obviously right that next week wouldn't have been a good fit. Let's wait until next week. And then something else happens and you're validated once again. So the key here is not to wait for the perfect time, which never exists, which I've learned never exists. There's always something that happens in life, but to make the time despite having a busy life, despite having things go wrong in your life, despite having a hectic life, okay? This is something I learned very young. When I was in college, I was busy with college work. I was stressed out with my day job and so on. And, I was, on the part-time shift on the evening, I would feel I guess they would talk down to me and treat me like a piece of something they'd wipe off their shoe. And I just felt like there's got to be something better than this, right? This is not the way I want to live my life. And eventually I realized, okay, so there's never going to be a perfect time. And the only way this is going to work is if I make time during the hours that I've got. Because we all have the same 24 hours in the day. You've probably heard that before, right? And you might feel different ways about that saying, about that phrase. But the thing is, it's scientifically true. Like, it is true. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. But how you spend those hours is up to you. And some people, yes, they get kickstarts in life compared to other people, and some people are in different situations and different circumstances. I get that, and I was as well. I wasn't exactly rich growing up. I never really had like a perfect house or perfect upbringing or anything like that. Not going to get into that today. That's a whole can of worms in itself. But something I learned is that nobody's going to hand you that free time. You have to make that free time. All right. So secret number one is schedule liberation. You don't need to block off like a 2-hour chunk of time. You can instead just block off 5 minutes. Okay. I want you to do this. Look at your schedule and ask yourself, is there 5 minutes that you can allocate to your online business at any point in the day to your online business? Okay. Now this 5 minutes should not be spent on emails, checking stats, stuff like that. That is not productive work, and it's not going to get you the results that you want. This should be allocated to items on your to-do list, which is going to move you closer to your end goal in your online business. Okay, so it's proactive work, not reactive work. And a lot of people say that they don't have time when they have all this like 2 hours a day or whatever else, and I was guilty of this as well. But then I ask them, hey, what are you doing in this block of time working on your business? And they say, well, yeah, I've got to check a few blogs, I've got to respond to a few people in Facebook groups and stuff like that. I've got to respond to my emails and whatever else. That stuff can wait. Like, that's not going to move you forward to your end goal, right? And yes, some things like that are important. Like if you're, paying your bills and stuff like that, that is not like structured business time. That is personal time stuff. When you block off time for your business, you only need 5 minutes. And before you know it, those 5 minutes turn into 15 when you're in the zone. And then that starts to turn into 30. And then it turns into an hour. And then you have suddenly, got over that hump of feeling like, oh, I can't be bothered to work for an hour. I don't have the energy. I don't have the motivation to work for an hour on this thing. It's a lot of work. But suddenly, if you change this to like a 5-minute block of time, that's a lot more digestible for most people, right? I'm sure you'll agree, right? Me included. I started to look at this like, how can I spend 5 minutes per day on my business? What is the most optimal time I could invest in that work, right? And then that 5 minutes turned into 15, turned into 30. And before I know it, like I was spending an hour working on the stuff. I was like in the zone. I was 100% focused, getting stuff done. And if I'd have thought initially, I need to block off an hour, I would think, I can't do it. My schedule's too full. I can't do it. I don't have the energy. I can't do it, whatever reason. And you come up with all of these limiting beliefs. And the reality is you don't need to block off an hour. You can get a lot done, even if it's just 30 minutes. Because cumulatively, you're going to get a lot more done and a lot more achieved if you work just say 5 or 10 minutes a day over the course of a month, compared to waiting until the perfect time and doing nothing at all. Does that make sense? So let me know in the comments if that is making sense so far. I wish I could see the comments here. For some reason, I cannot. Let me see if I can drag this. Nope, it's not letting me do this sideways at all, which is perfect. I can't see you guys' stuff. So never mind. I'll get to those after this live stream. Now, that's one of the crappy things about having this sideways like this. It looks better on the screen, but I can't see the comments, right? Anyway, so schedule liberation is thing number 1. And let me know again in the comments if this is making sense. Thing number 2 is you don't need to block off a whole bunch of time. You could literally just block off 5 minutes, okay? And by doing that, it will automatically stretch according to the task at hand. And it will seem much less daunting, and you'll be able to get more stuff done. That's something I learned very early on, right? Now, the third thing on this list here, which has really, really helped me, is the quality of time invested, right? The quality of, I guess, like the quality of things that you're doing during this time. Now, I touched on this briefly, but, small hinges swing big doors, okay? So what I mean by that is sometimes very small tasks and the accumulation of those tasks together will create a sum greater than its parts, okay? So what I mean by that is, like, if you spend, let's say, 10 minutes on setting up a website, for example, you can install WordPress in 10 minutes and be done with it if you follow the right stuff. You could also, map out an entire program that you're going to be selling to people for a premium price in 10 minutes, or at least like a basic outline. And then another 10-minute chunk, you could work on elaborating that outline, and that would be another 10 minutes. That outline could go on to becoming your program, which you sell for $2,000 per client or more, possibly even at $27 a client. That's still like a progress moving forward, right? Which will then lead to higher paying clients in the future. And then, that will allow you to get profit, to make revenue in your business, right? And that will not happen without doing the first few steps. So what I mean is that even though you may have a limited amount of time, it's not about like the more time you have, the more successful you're going to be. Because going back to my story, I only had like probably around 30 minutes a day after my day had been done. And by then I was exhausted, so I wasn't 100% in the zone anyway. And all of that time added up. All of those different segments of 10 minutes, 15 minutes throughout the day, 30 minutes after I finished work or whatever else, that all added up. And of course, then you've got the weekend as well, right? So not everyone realizes this as well, but you can actually like chunk out a block of time on the weekend instead of, instead of lounging around in the living room like some people do on a weekend because, the week's been so busy and stressful. I used to do this all the time. And instead of doing that, you can just sit there with your laptop instead. Have the TV on in the background, but while working on your laptop or your tablet or even your phone, just map out things that you should be doing and do stuff on your phone, for example. So that's something you can do as well, is like be very aware of the chunks of time that you have, but what you're doing inside them. Now, I touched on this very briefly earlier on in this live stream, that you should be doing proactive work during these times and not reactive work. And this is the big difference between successful entrepreneurs and people who just struggle continuously for many months and many years. Okay, you should not be reacting to things during this time. You should be proactive. You should have a to-do list of thing number 1, thing number 2, thing number 3 that's going to move you forward to your end goal. Okay, if you don't have that, ask yourself why. Why don't you have a to-do list? Okay, it could be because you don't have a proven plan. Guess what? Go and get one. Comment prosperity below right now if you want us to get in touch with you and see how our methods can work with you. And we can give you that proven plan, right? There's no shortage of information out there, especially when you have somebody in your corner helping you through the whole process, telling you to do this, do that, and plug into an existing system, right? So very briefly, we're here to help you with that. And if you don't want to work with us for any reason, you're not quite ready yet, that's totally fine. But work on something which is going to move you closer to your end goal. Okay? So what I want you to do is think, well, what are the big things, or even the small things, which are going to make those big differences in your business? Okay? What are those big outcomes made up of? Okay, so in an example, let's say, what do you need to be able to start sending traffic, right? Well, to be able to start sending traffic, you need something to send traffic to. And typically that's some sort of lead capture page or some sort of lead acquisition funnel or system where you're having people who've never heard of you before become a prospect or a lead. Okay, so what do you need for that to happen? Well, guess what? You need something for free to get them to opt in. Otherwise, you can't really just say, hey, join my newsletter. It's okay, but there's a much better way of going about it. When you do things correctly, you could be getting triple the response than what you could be if you were saying, hey, join my newsletter, right? So there's things you can do to massively improve your results, and by doing those things, you can move yourself forward. And instead of just responding to emails, checking stats, chatting with friends, or like networking, which is just basically a way of saying like, I'm going to create some relationships. I don't know how that's going to work out to benefit me yet, but I'm going to do it anyway. I would much rather you, when starting out your online business from scratch, focus on the things which are tangible, which have a direct correlation to your results, okay? So those will be things like creating assets, which are going to just, you create them once and then they just create profit for you on demand consistently from then onwards. Things like a website, things like possibly a Facebook group, if that's something you want to do. Things like having an email list and building that email list. Things like setting up your traffic campaign, setting up something to sell. All of these activities all add up to the outcome, right? It's physically impossible for you to do all of the right things and not see the results when you do things in the right way. But for that to happen, you need to think to yourself, well, during this time, I'm not going to get distracted. I'm going to close my door. I'm going to put on headphones or whatever it is that makes you 100% focused and focus on these activities, all right? So that's really important. And does that make sense? I'm kind of just like talking about my own experiences here, what really helped me. And there's tons of other stuff you can do as well, but those are the three main ones. Let me see what time it is here. Perfect. So we're about 27 minutes in here. Let me just go ahead and see if I can check my laptop for some questions over here. So let's have a look. Okay, we've got no questions coming in for some reason. No worries. Okay, cool. Hopefully this is all resonating with you guys. Okay. For some reason, the stream's not showing up. I don't know why. It's not showing up on my laptop. It could be a bug. I don't know. But anyway, hopefully this has helped you. If you have access to this video recording or whatever else, go ahead, drop a comment below. And I'd love to hear any sort of comments that you have, any sort of questions that you may have. Also, if you are, struggling to know what to do during the time that you have available, let me know. Go ahead and drop prosperity. Just say prosperity, send in the comments, and one of the members of our team will reach out to you, and we'll actually, chat with you and say, hey, this is what you're doing so far. This is what you should be doing. Okay. We can actually analyze everything you're doing during your proactive time and see if that's actually moving you towards your goal or away from it. And believe me, there's a lot of blind spots we often have as entrepreneurs, and we don't really know what we're doing a lot of the time isn't really as good as it could be. And we often focus on the wrong things. For example, some people spend days trying to figure out the best niche for them, whereas we can actually just tell them in like 5 minutes or less on one of these calls. So go ahead and type prosperity in the comments and hit send, and one of the members of my team will reach out to you, either Annie or Emmanuel. We call him Manny, so Annie and Manny will reach out to you and see if we can help you, and also see how our methods would work well for you as well. Otherwise, hopefully this has helped you, and essentially this is how you would overcome that issue of, I don't have time, or I can't find the time, or I don't know what to sacrifice in my life to make the time required for you to see results, all right? And ultimately, if you do all three of those things and you still can't find the time, you need to be very honest with yourself and ask yourself, how much do you actually want it? Okay, how much do you actually want it? Because if you really wanted something, you would make the time. Let's say if you won the lottery and you had a winning ticket, but your schedule was super full, and they said to you, hey, you're going to have a meeting with us for like an hour per week for the next 4 weeks for you to claim your winnings, would you be able to find time for that hour? Of course you would. Of course you would, right? You'd cancel everything. You'd do anything in your power to attend those meetings and claim your lottery winnings, right? The same thing applies with your business, except it's not a lottery. You have to work hard with it. When you do the right things, that you work a lot less, but you still have to be proactive and to put the time in, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you've enjoyed this session. Go ahead, drop a comment below with prosperity. If you want one of our team or myself to reach out to you personally and schedule a chat, see if we can help you, see how our systems can work for you to maximize your return during your time invested, even though it should only be taking you about 2 hours a week. That's all I say for most of our clients. You only need about 2 hours a week. If you still can't seem to get results in those 2 hours a week, reach out to us and we'll be able to help, right? Have a great day. Speak soon.